Hello, everybody, and welcome to AI People. Today, we're talking to Anna Felander, who is the co-founder and president at Asenion, which is an AI trust, risk, and security management platform. Greetings, Anna.
Nice to be here, Ben. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So we always kick off the podcast by asking you to make a few predictions about the AI industry as a whole. So the first one is, how do you see humans and AI collaborating with regard to work in 5 years' time and in 15 years' time?
Ooh. So right now we have a supply shock of broad intelligence that is very dominated by our left side of the brain. And we kind of focus in on how that could just scale, and we're building massive investments in the infrastructure, mostly in the US. So the problem right now is that there's the adoption gap. So companies, organizations, especially in Sweden and Europe, we don't see the productivity we kind of would have suspected. So now we need to work more with the left side of, if you think about a bird flying with one male energy side and the left brain, and then you have the more feminine side, the human centered, the social, with the right side of the brain. So we need to like fill up those muscles in that wing so we can fly straight forward. Now we're flying in circles. That's why I see kind of a slowing down of the return on investments from these infrastructure investments. And then we had a little bit of a productivity slowdown to reach the point where organization understands how to steer AI to align it with business value, to in an organization see how we can calculate risk and mitigate it, but also how humans see this as their best friend, not as a tool that will replace them. So right now we're struggling, and we need more of the left wing of this bird to fly straight. That is thinking about how humans from the bottom up in an organization can actually approach AI from a problem perspective. Let's collect all the problems. What would I wish if I want to achieve my KPIs and be a successful employee here? What problems can AI solve? So we lead AI and not the other way around. So if you have the boards and the executive teams, they have a trouble, they have invested in AI, they want to see return on investment, they don't see it. Now it's the organizational adaptation with new processes, cross-functional alignments on both return on investments, values, and risks. So I see that we're not going to reach the productivity level yet. There will be an adoption gap, and within that period, organization needs to train their employee on AI and not have them frightened that AI will replace their jobs. They will be working as the best partners. And then in 10 years, we know what AI should do. We don't invest so that we can see what AI can do. So it's a merge between a very tech-driven development with the right male side of the bird having the majority of the muscles, to slowly building up the social and the human-centric part of AI so we can trust it, so we want to work with it, so that we see, or employees and organizations see that this is benefiting me. And this is also important to mention that now I see that the EU AI Act next year because next year is the sanctions, so we'll be governing AI in the European Union. But what we're actually doing, we're trying to avoid sanctions, but what we're actually doing is creating sustainable business models with trustworthy AI solution, whereas in the US it would be more of incidents and accidents and suings going on.
And if we look kind of 20 years into the future, like how do you see AI reshaping the global economy? Do you think we're going to see more wealth inequality, or do you think we're going to narrow gaps in opportunity? Like what's the kind of view there?
Right. So if we don't steer AI in its proper way and have control and oversights, for example, how agents tend to drift towards the most popular and most capitalized companies, we can end up in a very polarized world with capital owners gaining, and the other the other alternative is that we would actually have like a Chernobyl incident. So we would kind of get into a situation where we distrust AI. That's no good. So that's why we have to be careful. If AI would have a polarizing effect, automatizing works and having AI being implemented top bottom, that could be not so good development economically with social tensions, etc. And then there's another way where we use AI to solve the problems we want to solve, like environmental, research-wise, with the new innovations in medicine and health, and also focusing on how we can use the European welfare states and welfare models to kind of do the training and do the transition as less hurtful as possible. So in my view, I do not think that there will be a net job loss effect of the development in 20 years. I think that once we have the investments in technology and the right side of the bird being built up with muscles on the other side, I think there will be so much value creation and so much jobs on the combination, both of the female side combined with the broad intelligence, and new jobs will be created. Actually, it's research show that in Europe, always when there's a productivity peak or increase in productivity, there has been job creation. So I believe in a balanced productivity to close, because that's what's going to happen to close the gap. And then productivity will have us use the AI the way that we get more out of our analytical brain and our social skills and our creative brains and mind. So I believe in any sector. My brother is an artist, and he loves co-designing and having people go inside his artworks in virtual realities, etc. So it's just that we have to be careful on building a more trustworthy relationship to AI, and that is the elephant in the room is actually that the big tech giants are capitalizing on our vulnerabilities to have us stay on these social media platforms and kind of not get us into the mood of question what should AI do and what can AI do, building out the capacity of the data centers in the US. That's based on a dream of reaching artificial general intelligence. It's not based on the reality. that companies actually want smaller models.
Yeah.
They need to understand it, and so no, I'm a believer in that we can and will lead the technology in the right path to have job creation, to go higher up and not be a TikTok reptile brain just growing back from the Stone Ages, to have us go further with our unique skills that are very unique to humans.
Okay. And before we jump into Asenion, could you just give us a quick overview of your background? You know, you've come to the AI industry from economics and kind of politics. Is that right?
Right. So I started, I'm an economist. So I started at the Ministry of Finance in Sweden with macroeconomic forecasting. And I was at the Prime Minister's office during the financial crisis, 2008. And then I became the chief economist at Swedbank, that's Sweden's largest retail bank. And I started to look not at the cyclical movements, but what was happening underneath when digitalization would actually, with its changing business models, creating hidden values. So I was doing a lot of research on that and also helping the bank with its transformative journey. Actually, Sweden was then also a fintech hub with Klarna and Izettle, and we had Swish and Bank ID pioneering that market. But then in 2016, when I've looked at the positive externalities of digitalization, the hidden values, I saw that AI with the large tech companies was actually creating a negative externality with digital pollution when people were opting in and actually, instead of getting having a willingness to pay, they were actually unaware of the digital pollution such as discrimination, lost autonomy, privacy intrusion, harm to safety, social exclusion, misinformation. And by then, I mean, there was no, I would start my multidisciplinary research group, and I started with the perspective that was unique because I wanted to align the way that business and compliance teams look upon risks, aligned with the tech. So based on that, organizations were working in organizational silos, the risk perspective was so different. So I started my research there. We got state funding to vet and test this methodology in a sandbox environment. So we created a methodology that we did consultancy on. And back then, no one knew about the AI Act, but still there were huge private and public organizations in Sweden wanted to find out and exhaust the risk landscape of their AI implementations. And then we did a data architecture because we created a taxonomy with this 5-step methodology, and we put it all on a platform with this huge insights on risk analysis and recommendations. So we by then we would raise money from the lead founder BGV in Palo Alto, and they also have a sister think tank called Ethical AI Governance Group, which I'm part of. So they were extremely early at looking at this market. So we did a SaaS PL product-led growth user journey on the AI platform, but the market was still not ready. So by 2022-23, we had to shift the business model towards more consultancy. So sometimes I talk to my old my colleagues that were working with me that time that are now like in Accenture or KPMG. They say, Anna, we're doing the same things that we did in 2019. Like it's a market that is about to mature, but still it's going to be a shock to everyone when the sanctions, if you don't prepare for the AI Act, if you don't prepare for having platform or software help to have control and oversights of your AI risk, it's going to be very, very expensive. and like GDPR, you can't go around and with Excel sheets, you need systematic support. Anyway, so the market matured finally then, and then I was due to the fact that I didn't have the tech team, I couldn't find the tech team I needed to have the tech roadmap with agents crawling the client's legal library and having the testing and insurance testing and the policy packs and controls that I would need to make the final automation. So I talked to my investors, and they've met Fionn, Lima Dan, and in Palo Alto. So they connected me. We just, it was just kind of a click. And then I met David, who is the co-founder and the CEO. And I went over, they came here, and we were just super, super excited and thrilled to start the architecture of integrating platforms. And since then, yeah, we have made such a fast achievement of the integrations. So yeah.
So just to kind of fill kind of listeners in, so Asenion is the merger of Fairly AI and Anch AI. Do you want to talk about like the problems that you can solve for customers now that you couldn't do separately, perhaps?
Yeah. So for example, in 42001 ISO risk management and in the EU AI Act, you need to have a risk management system that, I mean, we have that, and within the risk management system and within the quality risk management system, you have to do actual fairness testing and robustness testing and privacy testing, security testing. You would go into code, you would actually test it, and we didn't have that. We only had the recommendation, so that your testing is not fulfilling the requirements of the AI Act, so we need to do that. Now we can actually have the full coverage of an EU AI Act audit readiness, as well as 42001. And then we have the policy packs of NIST and New York hiring law. We have 50 policies within our policy library. So it's actually, if you think about coming from and being kind of in all you need to report your responsible AI performance to boards and executive teams, and now coming together with automating compliance with the tools to crawl all the regulations and have the questions, the controls you need, and also to have the questionnaires be automatically generated by LLMs, and that together is the whole package of AI, the trims, the AI governance. So now we're heading towards the European market. We know that the first to wanting to help and create value is the big audit firms. So that's a huge market for us, but also the tech consultancies that don't have what we have. What we have, to put it simply, we're the bridge between compliance and tech. So tech teams can nor report to Standardization Institute nor the notifying bodies within the EU, because they lack the ISO or standards way of reporting. So for example, when they would do their fairness or robustness testing, they wouldn't do it according to these principles. So they need to have that sent from the compliance team, and the compliance team cannot do an impact assessment, for example, a conformity assessment, without having the integrated tech, legal and business perspective on the severity and probability of end users harm. So I think what's beautiful and what made me bet on the right approach in 2018 is that, and what AI Act does is if you forces the tech team, the compliance team, and the business team to have an integrated view on risk and risk assessment and impact assessment. And that's what's beautiful. We want AI to be flourishing. We love the technology. We want to make AI governance easy and be this reliable fast track for EU Act compliance. I am a nerd about productivity, and I want Europe, I want the world to find the productivity from this beautiful technology. If we don't do it with an ethical filter, we will have too much accidents that we, by the end of the day, will not be able to trust the technology. So we need to both have the adoption gap closed, and we need control and oversight of the AI risks, because that's sustainable business models. That's how we can make the best out of this technology without the interference of how much profit can we make with just manipulating humans reptile brain, you know?
Yeah.
So it is a lot of values that I think the tech companies and platform owners they share, but the responsibility is lacking. So for example, are you a publisher or a platform owner? I mean, there needs to be more responsibility and less focus on these huge profit filters, just getting us into something that we need to have a value-driven and political direction of where can this technology take us. It could go down the rabbit hole, or it can make us flourish. So together we need this, because it's actually a market failure. It's a asymmetric information problem with the black box. So you wouldn't know, right? Even the builders of the large language models, foundation models, wouldn't know, but that is a problem. And if we would invest as much money as we did on the infrastructure and the applications on top, to see how will this in the long term create productivity, jobs, and not violate our human rights.
So in terms of your go-to-market approach with Asenion, like, are you taking this kind of directly to kind of enterprise companies, or are you working more with the consulting companies to kind of bring it to them?
Both, but more to the latter. Because we are a software company. We do the consultancy. We do as less consultancy as possible, because that would be left to the ones that can consult and have the manpower there. And when it comes to selling directly to clients, that's mature clients that have their AI governance team set up. Because we say, I mean, we've been consulting on AI governance and AI governance strategies since 2016. So what we say is, number one, get one person or function accountable for AI governance or AI Act or responsible AI. It could be in compliance, could be in tech, and could be some in between. And then get your AI responsible AI principles or your AI governance principles. Have your key risk indicators and metrics to report on that. And then how to report on that is by having this cross-functional orchestration to align on the risks, align on the values. So you do know of course, the MIT report showing that 95% of what Gen AI projects are not reaching the market or return on investments, and mostly it is about that the processes within an organization are not aligned. There's no business value attached to it. The risks are not clear. So it's about getting the tech teams within every business stream, and for them to the compliance team value risks and return on investments. There's so much AI, and if we're more hesitant than the US, if you just risk assess your category within the EU AI Act pyramid, I mean, you're good to go. And when you're not good to go, we wanna give the world the most frictionless journey to be EU AI compliance, because by the end of the day, that's a successful business model. That is business models that the clients and the citizens in Europe will trust. Regulation, it's always second best, right? Mm-hmm. And we've had discrimination laws, we have privacy laws, but they didn't work. Why? Because there was no way to have the tech team understand the requirements from the legal and the law team. So you would have legal compliance teams either saying no to everything, or just the tech team would go around the legal compliance team and would have regulations or AI projects without any validation.
And when it comes to the EU AI Act, like when you're talking to companies, do you get a sense that they're understanding that the obligations which they're signing up to, or is there still a big learning curve?
So in Europe or in Sweden right now, it's more about that we have to encourage the companies, the CEOs, to embrace AI and make the processes in the organization adaptable to find the business value. There is a lot of hesitancy towards the ethical risk. So they know that EU AI Act and the high risk sanctions are coming next year. They have a hard time finding out where and how to start. That's why it's important to start with the checklist, accountability principles and reporting metrics, the processes align. But I hope not. It would be like the GDPR when everyone was just caught by the chalk. This was, I think it was in May 2021, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have to prepare, and they are starting to understand that. The problem is, Ben, that the SEN standards from the EU has been lagging. So the latest news that it was the SEN standards to understand how to report to the notifying bodies. We've been waiting for them, and now we think they're going to come in the Q4 2026, and that's when the sanctions are active. So it's been when it comes to the AI governance and the sandboxes, it's been a bit. I would be a bit critical on how each country has initiated the sandboxes, the AI factories, and the notifying bodies, because that's what all the countries need. And Sweden, it's not best in class. I would say the Netherlands are doing a good job, but every country is responsible for this, and they haven't done their job fast enough because of I don't know, because of other things on top of the agenda. I don't know, but we really want to support the EU AI Act sandboxes within the entire Europe to help them have systematic support. I mean, they should be able to have guidance and expertise, but also systematic support to try and test. So we don't want a slowing down of AI adoption. We want the other way. We want them to flourish in a sense that it's safe, that if we are AI compliant, we are doing responsible AI, and it's going to take some time. And we have the digital omnibus coming in December. And the prime ministers, the prime ministers of Sweden actually wanted to pause the EU AI Act, but he had no consensus within the government. But there's fears that the AI adoption and innovation will be hampered, and I am convinced that it's the other way around. If you have clarity on how to assess the risk and how to comply to the requirements with robustness testing, security testing, privacy testing, inventorying and monitoring, you're good to go. But the focus on helping European companies be AI compliant without it hampering growth or being too of an administrative burden, I think that's been missing. And I think it's so important that people really start thinking about this and being educated on the EU AI Act, and find someone and find the accountabilities, and start preparing with the bullet points that we talked about a minute ago.
And just as a final question, when it comes to the governance of open source foundational models, how do you view that? Do you see companies using open source models? Should they be held to the same standard as companies who are building them?
Yeah, so there's a blurry line between providers and deployers of AI. So open source, we welcome open source because that makes it more transparent to see the testing data and the bias, and you can also explore by tailoring it to your own needs. When it comes to the closed, you want to kind of use it in your own way and tailor it. And then there's a blurry line if you have the responsibilities of being a provider, if you start with your own tailoring and adoption of it. So I'm very much for open source. I'm very much into that development. At the same time, we need to have some clarity when you use the closed ones and adapt it to your environment with your own data on what actually the requirements are according to the AI Act. Because if you are a deployer, you need, or if you are a provider, you need to do the quality risk management, which is a bit stricter. So yeah, but I encourage open source. I think that's the way we're going forward, because we can risk assess, and we can also have a say on the training data, the potential IP rights. I mean, we have also a problem with the consent on the training data. There's a lot of problems that we cannot be just in the hands of the large closed language models. So I mean, remember when the deep fake was announced, like, it's open source, it's cheaper and it's better. Like, most of the time, if you have that on the market, it would be like, wow, it's actually a competitive market, and everyone was very suspected. But we need more competition on the market, and the open source open up to that. So, and I think we're going to see smaller language models. I don't think the French people will be adopting to the Western or the American ways of cultural nuances, etc. We'll see. It's such an exciting development right now, and in Sweden we have also in one of the leading universities some research on creating large language models that are country specific.
Great stuff. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, Anna. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you? Are you kind of email, LinkedIn, X? Where do you spend most of your time?
So LinkedIn or email, or just, LinkedIn or email, or go to our webpage and get into contact.
Great stuff. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you to everybody watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of AI People coming soon.